welcome to this Agilent Technologies recorded webcast. We hope you find this webcast both interesting and valuable. If after viewing this recording you're interested in more, go to Agilent TM Webcast YouTube channel for more recordings or sign up for one of our upcoming live sessions at www.agilent.com/find/web_seminars. Now, over to the presenter.
Hello, thank you very much for the introduction. So my name is Miguel Ángel Guijarro. I'm NFC Product Manager at Agilent MBO. MBO is the Mobile Broadband Operation Division in Agilent. So we develop conformance test system for wireless technologies, including 3G, 3G, LTE, Bluetooth, NFC. So my role in the company is develop, plan, and also market NFC product for customers that are developing this technology into their devices. So today's session, you are probably familiar to the NFC, but today we will go a little bit about reviewing the challenges that, in our experience, are common when developing NFC devices, mobile devices. So our session today will be organized with a brief introduction to the NFC technology. We will take into account which aspects of the technology has to be considered when developing your own NFC device, and we will move into the testing part. So we will see what are the challenges to ensure that the final device is ready to go into market and ready to be used, and we will also talk about our own experience regarding the test solutions. So we will finalize today with some questions and answers that I hope I can respond. I have included on the first slide my email address. In case you need to contact me, I will be very happy to follow up later after this webcast. Okay, probably this is known by all of you, but let me start from the beginning. So near-field communication can be defined as a fusion technology that provides new valuable service to the users by integrating the RFID technology with mobile communication devices and wireless internet infrastructure. So NFC is a promise for creating new value for mobile phone users, develop new markets for mobile technologies, apply the RFID, HF, the NFC technology in various application domains, and extend applications for the business-to-customer area. So enable communication with a simple touch. Some facts of the technology. It's based on RFID at 13.56 MHz, operation distance typically up to 10 centimeters, compatible. So an NFC mobile device should be compatible to the existing contactless infrastructure and technologies. Data rates are changing, but today we are using up to 848 kilobits per second, although new specifications talk about higher rates. There are three modes of operation for the NFC mobile device, including peer-to-peer, car emulation, and reader-writer. Still on the mobile device, all the technologies will be in place, and NFC is not intended to substitute, for example, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. However, all these technologies can coexist as the application domain will be different and complementary. Application scenarios. Well, what is the use of RFID, and also what is the use of NFC technology now that will be present in our mobile devices? Track and trace of items in transport, libraries, item level management, personal identifications, access control in buildings, e-passports, and also some other applications, some of them very popular, like the payment, which will be possible to be done in the future with our mobile devices, or it's already a reality in some cases. Well, when NFC technology is available from a lot of devices that are already in the market that support the technology, maybe not complete, but may support some of these legacy standards and some of the new NFC standards. So we have it present in smartphones, we have it present in tablets, we have it, of course, in the infrastructure, so in the transport, in the point of sales, We can even make our own smartphone or mobile device NFC compliant by adding a sticker and from different vendors, and we basically see it on the most popular devices, tablet and smartphones. So let's try to focus, because when we use NFC, it's not only the NFC interface itself. As I mentioned at the beginning, new services can be now available. So there are some other parts of the mobile device that will be involved. So we have the handset in the middle, and this handset will interact with the NFC interface to a point of sales terminal. You can use it as a card for a transit application. You can use it for reading a tag or for establishing a peer-to-peer communication to other NFC device. But this device, in some of these applications, some other parts of the handset of the mobile device will be used. One of the key parts will be the secure element, which can be the SIM card or an external SD memory. So here is where the personal information, personal data of the user is stored. So these some of the applications will that are supported with NFC will later access to this secure element. After this access, it might be necessary to contact to the remote service provider through the mobile network operator network. And in some cases, like in the payment services, we will find out the figure of the trusted service manager, which will check that the information exchange in these applications is secure. Eventually, we will reach the service providers, and we will be able to cover the complete application. So what standards are in place for all these different aspects of the technology? So, well, first, I'm sorry that I forgot that at the same time the handset, the mobile device, will keep a connection to other devices, either with Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. This is among the most popular technologies existing today. I was willing to refer to the standards. So for payment applications, we have EMVCo, we have Visa and MasterCard specifications. We also have NFC Forum enabling the communication between the devices for these kind of applications. We also have ISO and NFC Forum for reader-write or card emulation modes, and for the peer-to-peer communications. So in the webcast today, we are going to talk in detail about the NFC interface itself, and we will not go into the details about what is on the applications or specific applications. Some other standards that are applying to this part of the transaction include GCF, GFC, PTCRB, a global platform. So industry promoters. So we will go through the history a little bit of the standards that are supporting NFC. But when it comes to industry, there are two main players promoting the technology. One is the NFC Forum, which is a non-profit industry association, which objective is to promote implementation and the implementation of NFC technology, and also promote the standardization of this technology to ensure the interoperability between devices and between services. One very relevant actor is also EMB, which is focused on payment. So in payment, there has been an evolution from contact, magnetic stripe, and chipset-enabled cards, and now EMB is also using the contactless cards. They define not only the level 1 RF and digital protocol interface, but also define the level 2, including the different applications for the payment schemes that are part of the certification. So both of these promoters have in common some parts of the technology, and they are indeed cooperating to define these standards that should enable interoperable services in different domains. Some figures about the adoption, and I'm taking here some information from the NFC Forum in 2012, at the end of 2012, so we can see that there are some information saying that millions of new mobile devices will be in the market in this year and following years, and NFC is following is continued to grow and continue to be present in most of the smartphones. Some of these research analysis, like the Gartner research, saying that 50% of smartphones will be NFC enabled by 2015. So basically, the idea is that NFC is getting into the into the mobile devices, even if it is not used today, or if not sufficient services are demanding the NFC today, the devices are ready and continue to be ready, and the expectation is that more and more devices will be ready in the following years. Okay, so this is a little bit the overview of the technology. Now, what do we have to take into account when developing an NFC device? And I see on the attendees that most of you already know. So I'm trying to make a review of what has been the contactless technology and what is going on these new specifications, new standards like those from NFC Forum. So contactless legacy standards. We have been using contactless cards for years, and there has been several ISO AIC standards supporting the RF parameters that implement these cards, these readers, and also the protocol exchange. So to mention some of them, the 10536, the 14443, 15693, and the 18092. So the first one was not widely adopted because soon it appeared the 14443 for proximity standards, including the ISO IEC 10373-6, including the testing methodology. So the 14443 is quite relevant. It's perhaps the most popular, present in most of the contactless devices, and includes two different technologies. These technologies are coming from the individual efforts from companies which started to develop the contactless technology, so namely Type A technology and Type B. 15693 is quite a little bit different because it offers a different operation range. And it's supported also by our testing methodology, the ISO IEC 10373-7. The 18092 is complementary because it includes the active communication mode and supports the peer-to-peer communication. There is also some testing methodology available in the ISO for this particular standard. So some examples of real products supporting or compatible with these standards, well, we have the MyFair, some of the MyFair cards compatible with ISO 14443A, Calypso cards working with Type B, and Sony Felica, which is compatible with ISO 18092. As I mentioned, well, in this table I have taken from Smart Card Alliance, you can see that the difference will be on the modulation schemes, on the memory layout of the tags. At the end of the day, different standards offer different operational range and data transfer rate. So this is on the legacy. So the NFC Forum, thinking on a more complex device, the mobile device, that can support multiple modes of operation, including card emulation, peer-to-peer, and reader-writer, the NFC Forum has not started from scratch, but rather taking into account the existing legacy standards. They have developed a complete set of specifications to develop a mobile device and also to test it. So this includes the analog specification with the RF characteristic of the NFC Forum device and operation range, the digital protocol, which define the building blocks to establish a communication, creation of commands, frames, etc. The NFC activity, so a device will behave either as the active part of the communication, the poller, or as the passive part of the communication, the tag. So a single device can support both roles, and this will be described on the activities in the NFC Forum specification. Later, on the peer-to-peer, there are also some specifications for the logical link protocol and also for the SNAP, which is a protocol that supports peer-to-peer communication. On the reader-writer mode, NFC Forum has defined 4 tag operational specifications and has also defined the structure of commands. How do we exchange commands when reading a tag or accessing a tag? So a little bit more about the peer-to-peer, about the application scenario. So peer-to-peer. In this case, an example will be that the NFC phone interacts with another NFC-enabled device, and they can exchange some information. For example, obtain security settings of a Wi-Fi network and configure the access automatically. In the reader-writer mode, we can use our own mobile for reading tags. So this is an advantage because the infrastructure, unlike previous contactless technologies where the infrastructure has to be developed and deployed, here we have the reader part can be on our own hand to read tags or access to information which is tagged on the goods, etc. Finally, last but not least, also the car emulation mode. So using our phone as a passive tag, simulating a tag, and that can enable us to develop payment operations, to access to buildings, or indicate our presence. Okay, so going back to the technologies and understanding a technology like a group of transmission parameters, and including the RF carrier, communication mode, bit rate, modulation scheme, bit level coding, frame format, etc. The NFC device may support one or more communication technologies, type A, type B, and type F. And in each case, it may act as polar, as the active part of the communication, so the part which is generating the field and starting the communication itself, or as listener. An NFC device in active mode generates the field. An NFC device in passive modes will wait until an initiator, a device in active mode, generates sufficient field for starting the communication. So in this table, a summary of the technical specification of the different technologies. NFCA will be using for polling modified Miller coding, ASCII 100 modulation, and is working at 106 kilobits per second. The different the technologies has their own modulation scheme, and in the case of the NFCF, even a different data rate. So the most complex part is that our device needs to support all these different technologies, all these different roles, and must be able to switch from one to another, changing the modulation characteristics and the bit rates for being able to interact with any other device supporting a particular technology. Operation volume. So the devices need to meet a minimum level of performance in the operation volume. And in the conformance test specs that we are going to see now, there is some reference antennas are defined for testing within the operation volume. So it's not enough to have a successful performance on the contact position, but rather you need to ensure that the results are good enough within the volume. So going back, I was mentioning before on the general NFC Forum specification stack the activity. So the pole device is the device starting the communication, so it will generate a field and will try to detect listen devices in the area. So first of all, it has to be able to scan for devices of different technologies, for example, including A, B, and F. So in case it detects more than one device, it shall be able to solve this situation, and for that need to implement some anti-collision protocols. Once this is done, it can activate the device. So if I have detected the NFC device, I will have to do the installation of the NFC technology, so identify the device and start the communication exchange until we are finished and we deactivate the device so we can come back to the initial stage. the contact part, the listener remains waiting until it detects remote field. In this case, depending on the technology that has detected, if it is supporting more than one technology. So if this particular listen can support NFC A or BRF, an F will respond with its own ID, which is the ID exchange depends on each technology, and will go into a mode where this device is waiting for Polar to send commands. So in the communication, always the Polar is the master, and the listen remain as a slave. So the listen might be even waiting until the Polar finalize the communication. So in this picture below, this is the complete state machine of the listen device included on the NFC Forum specifications. Okay, so we have seen a brief introduction to the NFC technology. We have also seen a review a little bit what are the legacy standards and the new standards for NFC mobile devices. So what about testing? Mainly, we will have to test digital protocol and analog RF. In the digital test cases, we will test protocol exchanges, link timings, framing, whereas in the analog, we will test power levels, waveform quality, shapings, frequency accuracy, modulation, thresholds, etc. We need different testing strategies for each stage of the NFC mobile devices development. At the end, our objective is to ensure the interoperability of the devices before reaching the market. So if we make it simple, let's think on the different stages. So we start developing basic components. We will provide them to our system integrator, mobile device system integrator. This mobile system integrator will probably need to test on a test house for getting a certification, accreditation. And eventually in the upstream, the operator may decide to do their own test. So because as they are rolling out the applications and they are deploying the devices in different countries, they normally need to have an extra confidence on that these NFC devices meet the acceptance criteria. So for the components and the system integration, we will go with a mix of R&D testing and pre-conformance. For the certification, we need to go through the official set of conformance test specifications and test cases. We need to go with 2 official labs. We need to go with qualified tools. And we may also need to pass the regulatory parts that are applicable for our NFC-enabled device. Finally, the operators will go to conformance, maybe not complete, but a small part of the conformance. We'll check interoperability between final devices, and we'll also be interested on performance and usability testing. So what are the challenges of all these different phases, and what are the proposals that we can do to solve these challenges? In the R&D, we want to support multiple protocols, NFC Forum, ISO 14443 IMB, even proprietary parts of the protocols, Felica, MIFARE. We have different modes of operation. We know that additional protocols may come into the future. For example, NFC Forum is currently analyzing the 15693, and this can impact on the RF and the digital protocol definition. We may want to have different forms for our final product, and this will impact on the antenna factor that we are using, being the magnetic coupling between NFC devices one of the greatest challenges when testing this technology. So how to address this? Well, we may need to test signal modulation, bit level codings, bit rates, frame formats, protocols, and command sets. So in this stage, we will go for simple command exchanges, testing that we are conform to the different modulations that we have seen for the type A and B or F. We may need to synchronize the different shapings of the waveforms that we are generating to the protocol and understand why the other side of the testing, in case we are using a test set or another device, is responding or is not. Go back to the timings, check that we are fulfilling them correctly, etc. When we go into the protocol, we need to verify commands and sequences. So we will probably, if we are developing the chipset where the protocol is embedded, we are probably implementing the protocol sequences, and when we generate the signals with the final device or the reference board, if we are working with first with a reference board, we will be able to link the waveforms that we are generating. We will go through analysis of the envelope, check the logical data, and eventually check that the protocol is correct. If not, we can go reverse and try to analyze where we are not meeting the expected values or the expected the correct implementation of the technology. So we need to have a cross-domain of digital and analog, since these are closely linked together. Regarding conformance testing challenges, pre-conformance. So now we are on a good shape. We have already tested that we are able to generate basic commands, and we are about to face complete and complex list of tests of protocol test cases or RF test cases. So here we need to fulfill correctly the different modulation and codification schemes in long exchanges of information. We will have to deal with the device with the magnetic coupling. So we will have to, as I mentioned before, we need to tune our RF so we have good performance on all the operation field, and we need to test for conformance. We will need to test the RF and the protocol, and for the RF we will test big amplitude signals in presence of low signals that can affect our performance, and we need to avoid the holes on the operational volume. So here an example, these are the different waveforms that are generated for the different technologies. We will build our sequences and frames, data packages using these waveforms, and eventually we will generate and exchange commands that can be, well, we can go as far as the bit level to check that we are creating correctly the commands. For pre-conformance testing, we need the time domain measuring capabilities. We need to have different reference antennas, and we need to have protocol analysis capabilities and the ability to emulate a device so we can test against another NFC device, which can act as a reference sample. We may need automatic positioning robots for ensuring that we are testing on the right positions within the operation volume, and some reporting tools to analyze the feedback that we are getting during our testing sessions. We may also need to go beyond conformance just in case we want to ensure that we are not just in the limits, so we need to customize a little bit our test plans. So just a comment about the different antennas. NFC Forum and EMB offer some reference antennas for testing the pole responses and also the listening. In the case of the NFC Forum has realized that a single design of the antenna cannot be sufficient for testing multiple final devices, mobile devices, that might be based on the same chipset but may present a different form factor and shape and size of the antenna. So they propose 3 reference antennas for the test tool when used as polar, and also 3 others for the test tool when used as listener. So in this pre-conformance, we will be keen to analyze what is the performance. So when we are testing in the operation volume, do we have any not only holes, but is our performance not stable, or do we need to tune any part of our RF design to improve that? And we will also go for testing complete sets of protocols. So analyze that even with long exchanges where we may need to switch off RF and switch it on again and complete the protocol exchange, we are doing it correctly. Certification schemes, well, most popular will be NFC Forum and EMB, as I mentioned at the beginning. NFC Forum offers a certification scheme that includes different waves, so they are adding new testing on the certification. Currently, NFC Forum certified the digital protocol part of the mobile devices, of the NFC devices, and it's planned for this year the RF, analog, and the peer-to-peer part. The EMB, as I explained on the beginning, they cover both the contactless part, but they also focus very much on the application level, and the level 2. So currently, these are the most important certification schemes, and currently NFC Forum and EMBICO are together analyzing what are the similarities between at least the contactless level 1 part. So eventually they may have some kind of mutual recognition of this part of the certification. Whereas NFC Forum focus mainly on the level 1 and the peer-to-peer protocols, the EMB can, if they go to an agreement to share this part of the certification, focus on the level 2, including the different applications for different payment schemes. A little bit more detail of the NFC Forum certification. So for the digital protocol and tag operation, there are around 275 test cases that include poll mode test cases, listen mode test cases, and tag operation test cases for the 4 tag operation platforms which are defined. In the RF, we have 11 test cases for the poll and 22 for the listen. However, it's not a list of 33 because, as I mentioned, in the certification you have to test using against different reference devices. You have to test on different positions. Some test cases can be tested on just one position, but most of them will be tested in 14 fixed positions in the operation volume. Also, for the listen configuration, there are different options for the LOAD on the reference listen device. So at the end, the list of test cases can go more than 100. In the LLCP and SNAP, the LLCP defines OSI Layer 2 protocol to support the peer-to-peer communication. NFC Forum is planning to add as much as 69 test cases for testing the MAC level, the LLC, so the connectionless option of the LLCP can be either connectionless or connection-oriented. Then the SNAP uses the LLCP connection-oriented transport and define the message exchange between NFC Forum devices operating in the peer-to-peer mode. So after the lab, normally the mobile devices reaches the operator, and the operator will probably demand to the providers to have their devices certified. But additionally, they will plan to develop their own test cases or their own test plan, including some spot checking of the conformance part, some device benchmarking, for example, comparing the RF performance, and also the usability of the NFC applications, also when combined with other radio technologies. In this sense, the coexistence is key. So for an operator, when we are doing a voice call, and if we have to do an NFC interaction, so it's not acceptable that the voice call is interrupted because of the NFC transaction and vice versa. So there should be some coexistence, and this is included in most of the MNO's test plans today. Some of the test cases that are included on these plans include the battery drain of how the NFC is consuming the battery on these mobiles, and also manufacturing testing. That they will not go through this part, but they may request to have more information about how this NFC is tested on volumes. So I'm reaching the last part of my presentation, so I have tried to talk a little bit about the NFC itself, what are the things that we have to take into account to implement this technology on the NFC, on the mobile device, and also what are the different testing phases and testing strategies that we can follow. So what do we need for testing? So we need to emulate both parts of the communication, caller and listener. Sorry that I'm writing here reader and tag, because in the ISO documentation you will read reader and tag. However, for the NFC Forum, they use the names poller and listener, but in principle it's the same. The poller or reader is the device starting the communication, whereas the tag or listener is the device waiting for a poller to come and start this communication. So, well, we need to emulate these roles. We need to generate the signals in the different technologies. We need to be able to acquire signals coming from the device under test and analyze it. For the protocol, we need to code, so we need to generate the right codes, the right coding when emulating an NFC device, and we also need to decode the information coming from the device under test. Conformance is important if we want to test and be sure that we will be ready for going into the lab and get our certification, but also design verification features are necessary. So normally device manufacturers or chipset manufacturers want to test beyond conformance, out of the limits, so to know the stability of their own designs. Automatic positioning tools are normally required for NFC testing to save time and ensure positioning, accuracy and reliability, and also repeatability of testing. And last but not least, for RF testing, is key that our test set meets the uncertainties values, which are normally defined by the test specifications. So these are the test bench requirements. And one example of Agilent solution in this sense is our T3111S RFID HF conformance tester. So we proposed two products that try to cope with these needs I was talking about. So we have the T3111S for conformance, and we have a T3121S for R&D. It's based on the same box. This is a one-box solution, so you don't need any extra hardware. And it's only a question of the different software that you are using for going into a conformance environment that is going to be used later on the labs, or R&D. We offer RF and protocol testing in one single instrument. We support robot, and we also have the flexibility to allow our users to develop their own test cases, access to the APIs, etc. So it's 20 minutes before 5, so I want to have these 15 minutes question and answers. So let me go to conclusions now. And well, you probably know, you are already familiar to this market, and new NFC devices extend the capabilities for legacy contactless readers and cards. So your mobile device is not going to be only a reader or a card. It will be much more, and will be massively deployed in the market. All of us will probably have in the future NFC enabled mobile, so we will be able to enjoy and consume these services. So the device, more powerful device, can handle more complex protocols and applications, including the payment and others. Different players in the chain have different NFC testing challenges, sometimes shared with upstream partners and customers. So sometimes there is a close relation between, for example, the chipset manufacturer and the device manufacturer. Their teams are working together, or the chipset manufacturer with a greater experience in NFC can also offer these additional services to ensure and to guarantee the upstream customer a smooth development of the technology. Several testing approaches are available for these challenges, so basic analysis of the waveforms that we generate in our initial design, analysis of the different protocols in the different technologies, until we can support the most complex conformance protocol exchanges that are defined either by NFC Forum or EMB, for example. Another conclusion is that we need qualified tools that can offer the accuracy, the configurability and the versatility. So this is normally a request from the market to have tools that are recognized. And finally, certification is a mechanism for NFC interoperability. So normally this will open the door for acceptance of the devices before going into the market. Okay, so thank you very much for your time. That was my presentation. I hope I could give you some insights about the testing, the experience we have. We have been working with NFC technologies since 2005. We have been also working in UHF technologies for a long time, and we have been cooperating with our partners and customers in different stages. So we have been facing all these problems multiple times, and we believe that there are solutions and right testing strategies to eventually ensure that the final device will be compliant and interoperable, which is the final objective of these joint efforts in the industry.
Well, thank you, Miguel. As Miguel mentioned before, it's now time for a question and answer session. But before we start, I would like to remind everybody about our post-event survey. Agilent offers a lot of free webcasts throughout the year, and we'd really appreciate it if you could take just a few minutes of your time to fill out the feedback form that will appear on your screen when you close the WebEx session. Now on to the Q&A session. If you have a question, just enter your question in the Q&A functionality of the WebEx tool. If your question requires a bit of research and we can't answer it live, or if we run out of time, then Miguel is committed to come back to you on email later. So during the presentation, Miguel, we've got a couple of questions coming in already. So let me just start with the first one. First question, when should I test to ISO versus NFC Forum?
Sorry, I was on mute. So yes, so good question. In fact, it's not that you need to drop the ISO test methodologies, which is present on different specs and has been used for a long time, but new devices has new functionalities, as I was trying to explain, and in fact, the EMB in the payment or NFC Forum in a more global approach, they take into account already the testing methodologies that were introduced in the ISO, because this is the fundamental technology for all contactless. So today, when we want to go for a full compliance device, I think that following the NFC Forum standards ensures that we are compliant and that we are taking into account the existing legacy ISO technologies, and that we will go through a complete set of digital protocol and RF test cases that will probably be more complete in some sense, in some extent, as it were the ISOs. Besides, NFC Forum, for example, provides a certification program that ensures the market that we do these successful results.
Thank you. Another question we got in on the standards. So what standards will give me the best overall coverage?
I mean, for the reader card approach for the contactless technologies, for proximity cards, the 14443 with the ISO 10373-6, this is the complete testing methodology for the proximity cards. These standards are quite live, so today new versions and new amendments of these standards are in place, and new evolution of the technology is being done. So transfer speed rates in the communication are changing, are getting greater, and also the power transmission and power reception may vary. So this is on the one hand. But when it comes back to have an official recognition of the final device, again, following NFC Forum or ENB might be a must and a requirement from final users. And also because this is done with official certification program using external labs, so this gives an additional confidence. I see here that we have some other questions in the chat. So, I have seen, there is one question at 4:26. Can you please tell us more on the NFC RF testing? Which standards do they relate to? Well, I basically have gone through this. So you have RF testing on the, well, for NFC devices, we can understand that the ISO 18092 was the NFC standard, and also the NFC Forum that I have described. So I have dedicated one slide to the RF testing in the NFC Forum, including power reception test cases, modulation polling device to listener device or vice versa, load modulation amplitude, load modulation sensitivity, threshold level. So in the NFC Forum there is very complete work on the RF part. It has taken a long time. It has been based on existing ISO and also ENB contactless testing, and I'm pretty confident that this standard will be widely adopted in the market. I see another question on the chat. What are the source output impedances of Agilent NFC test system? So this depends, and it's configurable depending on the test case that you are doing. So there is more information in the agilent.com website, where you can find exact information about the details of our device. Anyway, I would like to know what are you willing to test, and in this case we can perhaps follow up after the webinar and try to give you an accurate answer. So last question I see on the chat is, are there a global technical solution that means a solution globally deployable? So we have seen, and maybe you can see when researching about NFC, that ENB is quite popular, but ENB is focused on the payment. So if you are thinking for a global technical solution, at least for the level 1 for the RF and digital protocol interface, this is what NFC Forum is trying to do. NFC Forum has been focused on the specifications and the technical specifications, and now is moving into what they call vertical. So they are trying to promote this set of specifications and test specifications on the most important application domains, including healthcare, transport. So they are working, for example, with IATA for air transport standards. They are also working in the payment sector. So NFC Forum is trying to develop global standards that can be applicable for mobile devices that are widely used.
Thank you for watching this Agilent Technologies webcast. For more recorded webcasts, subscribe to our Agilent TM webcast YouTube channel. All of our webcasts are held live. Interact with our Agilent experts in the live Q&A sessions and gain access to Agilent materials. To view our upcoming live webcasts and to sign up for free, go to our website, www.agilent.com/find/web_seminar.